Hey, all, Brad here with another video. I haven't done one in probably a week and a half or so. I've been trying to finish up all my board work, customer board work that I've had in the shop. I kind of turned off taking in new work for a little bit. My goal was to get caught up on some of my own games I've got. And when the weather gets nice out, that's when I try to do my cabinet work in the garage. I don't like to paint or use any sort of, adhesives and things like that down here. So my opportune time is when it's warm out, so I like to get that done, then get them down here, and then in the when it's cooler fall, winter, then I work on them down here and kind of mix that work with customer work. But I really need to focus. So anyway, I turned it off, and I had one kind of commitment that I had for good customer of mine, Liam. He had got an original Inferno cabinet. It had been converted. He deconverted it, restored it. It's beautiful. Everything on it. He's got the boards, everything working great. And he reached out to me for joysticks, and I said, normally I do these in batches, and they're pretty time consuming. So he knew it was going to be a while. I'd probably taken longer than I'd like to. In the course of that, he had found a blaster joystick, which is the same handle but different than Inferno. Inferno uses an 8-way stick that's clocked 45 degrees, and Blaster's a 49-way that's just normal orientation. So he had sent that. He said, let's try to use as many parts from that original one as we can. It's got a little wear and stuff, but I'd rather have original that's a little worn than reproduction, even though they're very accurate reproduction. So I went through and got all the stuff out. I had to get some new parts that I was low on, do some machining on the bearings and that sort of thing. So finally, I was able to get these done. So I'm going to go over them, what we did for these two pair of sticks for Inferno, and kind of compare them with the Blaster. I built a harness up so I can test them on a Robotron board set. I do have spare Blaster sets here, but Robotron I tend to have on the bench a lot, so it's in the test mode's real easy. So I set that up. So let me switch over to the bench cam and we'll get on with it here. So on the bench here is one that is a full reproduction. And let me start by showing you a blaster stick. So this is pretty much the original 49-way blaster stick. So it's essentially the same bottom half bearing as a Sinistar is. So it's optical. It's got three optical switches for each axis for the X and Y, and they basically give you different intensities of movement. So centered is no switches are activated. Then you get one switch activated, and then two and three, and then same thing going in the x-axis. So they use a rubber, what we call a centering spider. So this pulls the stick back when there's no force on it back to center. It's kind of a slick thing. These do wear out and break. I've got a guy on Clov that does make real nice reproduction ones of these. And I do fix all these boards and everything. And so if you also look here, the spacers, they're pretty close in size. The ones on the bottom here are a little bit thinner than the ones here closest to the actuator. Also on this actuator plate, there's these optical interrupters. So as you move the joystick, there's a shaft that goes through and moves these little plastic interrupters that actually interrupt the infrared transmitter with the photo transistor on the other side. So, and here's a look at the board itself for the 49-way. So again, there's your three optical switches for each axis. There's some transistors that drive it as well. You've got some pull-up resistors here, so when they're not actuated, the signals are pulled to 5 volts. In these boards, they need 5 volts and ground coming into them to power the circuitry in here, so keep that in mind. So again, the blaster board that was sent to me to convert to Inferno, these are the parts here that I didn't use. So I had to put an 8-way board in. Internally, there's a switch here for the thumb, and then this one's for the trigger. And these are just pretty wore out. I have brand new ones I use, and I have I design and 3D print a little extension for this lever on here, and then I make up a whole new harness with a new connector and everything. So that's been replaced. He had some broken screws in the old handle that he had already removed. There's a little actuator on here that I make new ones of those. And then again, these spacers down here were for the 49-way. I make ones for the 8-way. And then again, here's his interrupters, and I essentially copied the pair of 8-ways, and then I 3D print these as well. And then I make reproduction shafts. So this is the customer's 49-way original shaft here, and then this is a reproduction shaft for these for the 8-way, which is shorter, which was used on Inferno. So you can look here; it's about a ½ inch shorter. So ultimately, with the 49-way, since the from the fulcrum point being up here down here, you get more displacement. than you do with when you configure it for 8-way. So, and they did the same thing with the Bubbles joystick compared to the Sinistar. So it's a shorter shaft as well. So if you look here at these spacers, how thick they are on the 49-way and compare them next to it here with the 8-way, you can see that there's a much shorter gap in there. So, and this one here is the reproduction. So the board I make, this is a new centering spider as well. And let me switch over. I'll show you here on the bench cam. On the bench here, I've got the Robotron board set up, and then I made up a harness that comes over, plugs into the 7-pin connector here on the base. You've got the black on pin 7, which is ground. Pin 3 is plus, and then you have left, right, up, and down in here. And this is the same pin out as Bubbles. And then I also have a little 3 wires here for ground, and then the trigger and thumb actuator. So I'm testing those separately on the board, and you can see here the little harness I make up for it. So with that, I will switch over to the game screen. Okay, so this is again on Robotron, and I've already got it set up in switch mode in the diagnostic screen. So I will grab the joystick here, and the first thing I'll do, so what I did, I wired up the thumb button to, I think, player 1. So as you can see, as I actuate that, player 1 goes in, and then this should be player 2 on the trigger. So you can see that works fine. And then if I move the joystick up, and keep in mind these are clocked at 45 degrees for Inferno because the whole gameplay is kind of skewed like that. It's kind of a Zaxxon-y feel, where it's kind of on a weird plane. So I'll move it up though. So you see move up, down, left, and right. So I test all these as I'm building them. I made a test harness up actually for these as I'm making them, and then throughout the process. And when I build the boards, I test them as well. But now that it's fully assembled, ready to ship, I just like to, go over everything and make sure it's 100%. So I'm going to get these going out to him probably tomorrow morning. I'm going to take them over to the UPS store. I am going to build a few more in this run because usually if I have everything out, I'm kind of in that mode of making them up. Then I can, do a few at a time. So with that, I'm going to wrap the video up. Thanks for watching, and I do have a Stargate board. A local friend of mine dropped off here yesterday, so I'll probably be doing that shortly. So thanks for watching.